So the holiday season is upon us all, and that means one thing: parties, parties, and more parties. Whether it's your company party, weddings, or sort of like family gatherings, you need that special outfit that would make you feel and look special. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the pattern for this illusion mesh sweetheart mermaid neckline dress. That just sounded very long, but the dress literally has an illusion neckline here, a sweetheart style line on the front, a deep V on the back, and it's sort of a mermaid shape silhouette. Plus my wedding is coming up next year, and I need to start sort of getting comfortable making gowns and draping and evening wear, because I plan on actually making my wedding dress, even if it's not the main dress, at least the reception dress. So make sure to watch until the end, because I show how to make the pattern in this video. The next tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to sew it all up together, because it ended up being really long, so I decided to split it in two. This is going to be the part 1, and the part 2 is going to be the next video. So make sure to subscribe so you know when the new tutorial comes up. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and let's jump straight into the video. I'm going to be working with the following tools to create the pattern for this dress, and I have them displayed here as you can see. You'll be needing your basic bodice, your front and your back. I'm going to be linking all the tools mentioned in this video in the description box down below. I also got myself my paper, scissors, some pins, a pencil, marker and eraser. You'll also be needing measuring tape to take down your measurements, set square and the pattern master, as well as a long ruler because it's a long gown. I also got myself my roll of pattern paper, which I'm going to be working with. You need to take down the following measurements, such as the length around your knee, around the hem, sort of how wide you want it to be, and how deep you want the mesh panel to be on the front as well as the back. So first up, I'm going to go ahead and trace off my front bodice. I'm going to be working with a size 8 from this graded bodice plan here, and don't forget to sort of indicate what line is what, as well as transfer your dart. So I added my grain line as well, and I'm going to be working on this to make my front gown plan. So with a pencil, I'm just going ahead to draw in the sweetheart neckline. You can decide to make yours really deep, but I usually don't like to have my sweet line deeper than my bust line, so I can wear like a strapless bra or a corset underneath and know that I would have too much boobie showing. So once you're happy with the shape of your style line, you could go ahead and make it sort of clearer and more visible using your marker pen and indicate what side is your mesh panel, which is sort of the top side of this front plan here. So I went ahead to move my dart closer to the center front line because I wanted that mid front seam to go through my nipple point, and half of my nipple point is 3.5 inches, and I'm going to move my dart to that exact nipple point. So I'm just going ahead here to draw in a vertical line that goes through my nipple point on this side, make it more visible with a marker pen, and the dart is 2 centimeters wide along the waistline. I'm just cancelling out this one because that's not what I'm going to be working with, and I'm going to be marking 1 centimeter on both sides of that line that we just drew and connect it back to my bust line to create the new dart that we're going to be working with. I'm going to go ahead and connect the bottom point of the dart to the middle, and that bottom point ends about 2 inches or 5 centimeters from the hip line. So I'm going to draw in the second leg of the bottom end of this dart, so we have the full angular shape here. So once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and reduce 1 inch from both sides of this part of the neckline. I have found from doing necklines that go across the top chest like this that it's usually really loose on that top angle, except you sort of like taking the measurement through the darts. So I'm just taking in 2 inches in whole, 1 inch on one side of that nipple point line, and I've connected it back to the top edge of the dart. So that is going to divide the front plan into two: panel 1 towards the center front and the panel 2 towards the side. I always like to go back and double check my measurement whenever I change or move anything around, and this just helps me know that when I've done with the pattern, the garment will still fit. So this part is optional, you don't have to do it, but because my lace has a bit of stretch, I'm just removing 1 centimeter from the side so the garment can stretch across my body in a way that is flattering on. But if you're using like a stiff material, you can just leave that ease in there so you have breathing room when you have your dress on. So once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and extend my center front line downwards like so, because we're going to be making a long gown. So the vertical distance from the hip line to around my knee is 12 inches. I suggest you work with yours or that of your client for the best outcome. So once you've marked that point, I'm just going to go ahead and draw in a horizontal line like so, and this is going to become sort of around my knee area. With that done, I'm going to mark a quarter of my around knee measurement, which is 36. Divide that by 4, which gives me 9 inches, and I'm going to connect that point back to the hip line. You want to ensure that that measurement around your knee is not too tight so you can still walk comfortably in your garment. So next up, I'm marking the full gown length, which is 19 inches from the knee or 40 inches in total from the shoulder down all the way to the hem. And once that is marked, I'm just drawing in my hemline horizontally like so using my pattern master. You can make your skirt hem as wide as you want to. Just think about the width of your fabric when you are deciding this. I decided to work with 15 inches width, which is half of this front here. So in total, it would be 30 inches, like around the entire hem of the dress. So I'm connecting all of the necessary points together to create my front plan. I have my knee and I have my hem. So this shape is sort of a mermaid silhouette. So it's fitted around the bust, the waist, the hip, around the knee, and then it sort of kicks out at the hem. So this is what the front is looking like. Like I said earlier on, if you are using woven fabric, you can just leave your ease in place. So I have a full clear division for panel 1 and panel 2 on my front. I'm extending that nipple line all the way down to the hem of the dress, so I have a clear division. You can keep your line straight and you can have it sort of angling out on this bottom hem area like so. I just wanted it to have a sort of, I don't know, bent or curled style line on the bottom of the dress, but that is a very optional step. So once you are done with that, you can go ahead and start tracing out your different panels that you'll be working with to sew your dress. For the neckline of the front mesh panel, I decided to drop that neckline by 2 centimeters or about 1 inch, and I'm going to connect that back to the shoulder point because I didn't want the neckline to be too high on the front. So I'm going to connect this around the shoulders like so, and then the shoulder width is 8 centimeters or 3 inches, and I'm connecting that back to the side, forming my front arm curve. So that area that we removed for the sweetheart neckline, we are going to need to get rid of that when we draw in the shape. But first off, I'm just going to draw in the entire shape of that entire front sweetheart shape, and then I'm going to come back in and we're going to get rid of that 2 inch that we sort of removed when we were planning the main body. So I'm going to move this notched point to the other side of the dart like so, and I'm going to retrace out the edge of this sort of side like so, and this is going to become the new end of that sweetheart neckline for the mesh panel. So once that is done, we can cancel out the ends that we don't need, and I'm going to go ahead and add my seam allowance. Because my mesh fabric has quite a bit of stretch, I'm going to be getting rid of 1 centimeter from the shoulder line, and I'm adding 1 centimeter seam allowance to the bottom end, which is going to sit into the neckline of my gown. So this is what is going to connect the illusion mesh to the sweetheart neckline, and you can either leave this as a clean line, or you could go ahead and cut out some lace and just have fun and hand stitch that back into your garment. Because I want the neckline and the arm curve not to have any seams, I'm going to leave this panel like this, because when I cut it onto fabric, I would not be folding that neckline and I would not be folding in the armhole. So this is what my sweetheart mesh panel looks like, and I went ahead to cut out the pattern. I would only need to cut one piece of this on a fold, so that goes across the entire front of the gown. With that done, I'm going to go ahead and trace out and cut out my panel 1 and 2. So my panel 1 is what I have laid down here, and this I'm going to cut on a fold in fabric. So I have one panel that sits right in the middle of the garment, and then I have my panel 2, which I'll be cutting 2 pieces for, one piece to go on the left and one piece to go on the right. So this is what my front gown panels look like. I decided to really keep it really simple and straightforward and focus more on the illusion mesh or top neckline of the gown. For the hem, remember to go in on this edge like so when you fold it back up along the seam or along the hem, it sits nicely when you're sewing all the way across. So once we're done with our front patterns, we can go ahead and repeat the same for our back, starting by tracing out your back pattern from your graded plan, adding your dots, your annotations, as well as your grain line. Once that is done, I'm going to go in with my pencil to draw in my back neckline style line, and I'm going for a deep V that goes down to the bust line like so. I'm refining my pencil line with a marker pen, and I made this a little bit deeper later on. Next up, I'm going to shorten the shoulder to 8 centimeters or 3 inches and connect it back to the bottom of the arm curve like so, because you want your front and back shoulders to match. So once that is done, I'm going to draw in the direction in which I want my neckline for the main body of the gown to go, and I want it to sort of point inwards from the side towards the center back, and that was the point I decided to make my back neck or V shape even going a little bit deeper compared to what I had it like before. So once we're done with the style line for the neck and the mesh panels, I'm just going ahead to extend my center back line downwards like so. So this is because we made our front just as long, the back needs to match as well. So I'm going to mark vertically from my hip line downwards to my knee area at 12 inches. I'm going to draw across a horizontal line like so. I'm going to mark quarter of my round knee measurement, which is 9 inches, and that we will connect back to our hip later on. And then I'm marking from my knee to my hem, which is 19 inches. This you can make longer or shorter depending on your sort of design of choice. And because I removed that 1 centimeter from my side seam on the front, I'm just repeating the same on the back side seam as well before connecting it to the knee and the hem of this back plan. So I'm just going ahead to use the curved end of my pattern master to connect the hem to the knee area, so we have a nice shape that sort of matches the front. So once that is done, we have our back plan done, and this is what it looks like. We have our mesh panel, which is the top of the back and which would sort of match along the shoulder of the front, and then we have the main back bodice, which I'm going to keep as sort of 2 pieces, one on the left and one on the right. I didn't want to have a seam going through the mid or the side back panels. So once that is done and you're happy with everything concerning your back plans, you can go ahead and trace off the back patterns. So for the mesh panel for the back, I'm removing 1 inch along this edge like so, because I don't want it to form a weird gaping when I have the garment on, and because the mesh fabric has some stretch, I believe it would stretch out to look nice on my garment. So once I've folded off that 1 inch, I'm just using dashed lines to trace off the back neckline like so. At the point where you made that fold, the lines wouldn't really match. Just sort of trace the bottom side, trace the top side, and then you can connect the dashed lines together later on. So once that is done, I'm going to put this pattern piece over like so, and I'm going to trace off my shoulder, my arm curve, as well as the bottom of this mesh panel. Now I'm going to tilt the pattern in this direction so I can trace off this diagonal line, which is the seam where the mesh panel will join the bottom area or the bottom body of the gown. And once we've traced that off, I'm going to connect my dash line so I have the V-shaped back neckline that the mesh panel has. So I'm just doing this with my marker pen and my pattern master, and I'm going to go in and add my seam allowances and any other necessary measurements I need. So like we took off that 1 centimeter from the front shoulder, I'm going to do the same for the back. I'm adding my 1 centimeter seam allowance on the bottom like so, connecting it back to the V shape of the neckline, and then I am also going to connect it to the bottom of the side seam like so. After adding my annotations and how many pieces I'm going to be needing, which is 2 for the back, 1 for the left and 1 for the right, and went ahead to cut out my pattern piece. And for this edge that is sort of the side seam or the side towards the top of the screen, I went back to make it a bit more angular so it's easier to work with when I cut this in fabric instead of having a pointed edge. So this is what my back mesh panel pattern piece looks like. You'll be cutting 2 pieces of your mesh to fit to the bottom of your back gown. So for the back piece, this is what it looks like. I went ahead to trace it out. I added my 1 centimeter all the way around and 2 centimeter hem allowance. I added 2 centimeters to the front panel as well, so it gives me enough to fold up to finish off the hem of the gown. So that is it for making the patterns. I will go ahead and start sewing this almost straight away, and I will keep you guys updated on how I get along. So those are all of the patterns done and ready. I've actually started sewing the dress and it's looking really good. I'm going to insert a picture somewhere on the screen so you see my progress so far. I ended up using 2 meters of the blue lace on the outside and 2 meters of the light blue lining. For the light blue lining, you might need a little bit more since you are going to be doubling up the lining layer. So I say get like at least 3 meters if you want the lining to be the same length as the outer shell of the dress. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I can't wait to show you guys the construction. I hope the dress comes out well because I really actually want to wear it. I have a party on the 14th of December and I want to wear it for that day. So if it doesn't turn out right, I would need to actually, I don't know, make it work somehow. If you enjoyed the video, let me know down below in the comment section and I'll see you guys in my next one. Yeah, that's it.